I will describe briefly what is going on additionally in the pose. We talked about the thyroid, the parathyroid. We've talked about the cardiovascular system, about the fact that blood is pooling in the head, in the neck, around the thyroid, parathyroid, pituitary gland, and that my heart is having to work to push blood up to my feet. And in addition, there is some interesting work going on in the head itself. When I first began practicing yoga and got into headstand, I integrated the knowledge I had from cranialsacral therapy, and in looking at headstand and what was going on with the cranium, I knew it had to have some effect. Long story short, the cranial bones actually have a small degree of movement. When a baby is born, there's a soft spot. The skull is not completely solid, so that the head can go through the birth canal. Over the course of time, people have come to believe that these bones are solid, but the sutural junctions, the connecting points, do have some movement. If headstand feels uncomfortable, you should come out. If it feels like a plate in your head is sliding, definitely come out. But I'm going to describe what I understand of headstand and what it does to the cranial bones. If you're not familiar with cranialsacral therapy, just do a little research on it. I recommend you look at the Milne Institute. Hugh Milne wrote a wonderful book called, I believe it's Heart of Listening. So, I'm in headstand, I'm upside down, there's pressure on the cranial bones. The pressure that I am exerting in this position is doing the following. The parietal bones are being compressed. The parietal bones that then connect on either side with the temporal bones are slowly going into flexion and rolling forward, which means that simultaneously the occiput and the sphenoid are going into flexion as well, slightly. You're exploring the edges of those sutural connections. You're making the skeletal bones in the skull more pliable. You're strengthening them because of the resistance. Long-term practice of any physical act in gravity is going to strengthen bones. It makes sense to me that the bones of the cranium, of the skull, are going to become strengthened from this. So, long story short, according to cranialsacral therapy, headstand is making the skull bones go slightly into flexion. When you come out, of course, the pressure is released. And as you play with headstand, you'll start to notice that you can shift the head front, back, side to side. So you're not only working on the cranial bones, but you can shift. What happens if you shift a millimeter left, a millimeter right, a millimeter to the front, tucking the chin, pushing the head away, then working on retraction through the cervical spine. You're strengthening, opening, lengthening the spine, creating space for the discs. You're creating strong musculature that will support the body instead of developing herniations, calcifications, bone spurs, having disc issues, nerve problems, in addition to all the other benefits that we talked about. If you want more info, you can also look at the Upledger Institute. I generally prefer Milne simply because of the quality of A Heart of Listening. I feel like he gives it all away if you're willing to read the book. Very, very good work. And you can continue playing with headstand. It is great fun. And if you're wondering how I feel, well, I've just been hanging out talking, huh? You can stay in the pose as long as you want, so long as it feels comfortable. I'll see you again soon on RobertGardnerWellness.com.